Caitlin Clark is box office. She's doing this. And instead of giving her credit, y'all tried to make it about, oh, y'all poo-pooing the old guard. Y'all never talked about the old guard like this.
Have you seen the postseason WNBA games without Caitlin Clark? It's likely that neither did you, and it doesn't appear that many others did either.
And they all stayed the course. She allowed her teammates to lead her in certain moments and calm her down in certain moments while still playing the game and being herself out there on the floor, while also dealing with a ton of BS and noise off the court.
The attendance fell from 1.8 million to a pitiful 161,000. That's a sharp decline rather than a small one. From this point on, Caitlin Clark can be used as a benchmark for noise levels during basketball games. In the future, we'll be able to remark this is comparable to what Caitlin Clark had to deal with since there was a lot of noise and she managed to handle it. We now have to ask ourselves, does the WNBA now face difficulties without its newest stars? Regarding the BS that Caitlin Clark had to deal with off the court, I absolutely agree with your stance. We were reminded that she had been the star of the show, the box office draw, and the subject of numerous stories in the past. One of the most recent was the one involving her and Sheryl Swoopes. Even though Sheryl Swoopes was the genuine victim in this instance, she had something to take care of every time you turned around. Let's give Clark some appreciation for a bit. She didn't only enter the league, she had a significant influence. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put this in perspective. That is why I am bringing it up, and I adore it. I am a novice. Leading rookies in scoring field goals made, three-point field goals made, assists, steals, and minutes played at the end of the regular season was Caitlin Clark. In addition, she set league records for assists and made three-pointers. Take a moment to consider that. In the end, Shannon points out, you are a member of that original team. As a result, we placed 4th in the league for MVP. Because of her, the Indiana Fever, a team that had been all but forgotten, became a serious playoff contender. They made an effort to downplay her by saying, you're giving her so much credit. What about the women who came before her? It is impossible to take away what the women who came before her accomplished. That has nothing to do with Caitlin Clark, but many people fought to ensure that she remained in her proper position because by giving her so much attention, you are downplaying the things that she has done. You cannot discount the impact of Simone Augustus, Candace Parker, Lisa Leslie, Lauren Jackson, Diana Taurasi, or any other outstanding player. What Caitlin Clark is doing does not take away from what they have done. Imagine changing in such a short period of time from being a supporting role to a pivotal one. However, we ought to have given her the credit instead. The ratings were visible to us. We saw the sales of products. We observed the turnout. However, you all want to make it about something different. What about the women who built the foundation, you ask? How about this? How about it? That is not unrelated to Caitlin Clark. Here's where things become scary, though. The league is having trouble with empty venues and low TV ratings without Clark. It feels like the excitement has worn off and the fans have disappeared. Unanimously named Rookie of the Year, Caitlin Clark's first-team WNBA appearance is even more remarkable. Thus, the crucial question still stands, does the WNBA depend too much on a single player? What would happen if she passed away? Thinking back on Caitlin Clark's debut season, I have to admit that I have never witnessed a business make a mistake as big as the WNBA did with Caitlin Clark. We're going to discuss why this scenario is critical to women's basketball in the future, so stay tuned. The impact that the Fever is having on Indianapolis's economy, in the WNBA and the sports industry, and to be honest, it's incredible. You are all aware of the history now. During her time in college, Angel Reese made fun of our girl, Caitlin Clark, by doing all of this. Those figures seem impressive, but what does that signify for the league, you might be wondering. Allow me to explain it to you. Pretty much everyone forgot about the Indiana Fever until Caitlin Clark appeared. They are a team that people are talking about these days. I find her to be amazing. She will quickly become, in my opinion, women's basketball's biggest draw at the ticket office. I am aware that my opinions may seem a little prejudiced. As I've mentioned multiple times, I had the pleasure of interviewing her. 10,000 people showed up when I joined her on stage to do something. Clark didn't merely improve their performance. They were virtually instant contenders thanks to her. There is something unique about this woman. She can hit targets well. She is the female version of NBA player Steph Curry. Furthermore, I can relate to everybody, even the Sheryl Swoopes of the world. Many players have excelled in women's basketball during the greatest times. UNESCO is undoubtedly amazing. We also see a variety of others. I recall how huge Lisa Leslie and Tom were, as well as how Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper used to be. And when you think about how women's basketball has evolved, I'm not taking anything away. However, it goes beyond what occurs on the court. The influence of Clark goes far beyond the actual game. Very interested because there is a league with participating teams that think they ought to be the ones receiving attention. They are in the spotlight now, but the ratings will decline. But how far? That's the essential element. We're seeing WNBA games viewed by record numbers of people. And who is the focal point of it all? That's right, Caitlin Clark. It is going to be. The league is far larger than this one female who joined. It was said before the argument. We've proven it too. And hey, check out the figures in other women's basketball leagues. Not simply Caitlin Clark is involved. We're all involved, though. Return and claim. See, we were right all along the instant the ratings collapsed. All of the racists that watched the product were those who follow Caitlin Clark, and they've vanished now. And we're back along with our loyalists. And those are the ratings that are displayed to you. True supporters of real W fans, not WNBA types. That will be the point of contention. She went from being a player to becoming the face of women's basketball, but when they fall off while she's not playing, will that make headlines? They now have to endure the postseason. They are facing off against the NFL. It is not smart. That is what we pointed out yesterday. Consider it. When was the last time a player in the WNBA generated this much interest? Since Caitlin Clark did not play in the WNBA the previous season, the numbers will increase every year. ESPN will use this to their advantage by claiming that even with Caitlin Clark absent, their playoffs will be watched with far greater interest than they were the previous year. However, that hardly tells you the complete story because they were so low. Clark is drawing in more than just die-hard hoops enthusiasts. Additionally, she's attracting viewers who have never seen a women's game before. After 28 years, the results were excellent. It attracted a whole new audience thanks to Caitlin Clark. And now that the Indiana Fever has lost 2 games to the Connecticut Sun, both she and the team are out of the running. How will the WNBA's ratings for the remainder of the season be? Will anyone care anymore? That is the question that is bothering everyone. Because they are absurd figures when you consider that Caitlin Clark was present for her first playoff game, which attracted 1.84 million viewers. Not only was this an opening round match in 2000, but it was also the most rated playoff game since the second game of the WNBA Finals. It was one of the championship games. This demonstrates quite plainly the impact Caitlin Clark is making. The WNBA is now more relevant than it has ever been thanks to her. But this circumstance also prompts certain questions. It seems as though Clark is the center of attention for the entire league because of how quickly she rose to prominence. However, it's always crucial, definitely, to offer praise when it is deserved. Furthermore, I believe that everyone is aware of who deserves credit for this WNBA season's accomplishment. When Caitlin Clark joined the team, she had a huge influence on how many people became interested in the WNBA. In the league's history, this was the season with the most viewers. This brings up an important query. Does the WNBA benefit from this reliance? The adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket, is well known. The WNBA appears to have had to learn this lesson the hard way because with Caitlin Clark out of the playoffs, the league is having to face reality and is left wondering if they missed their big opportunity. This is far more than just losing a fantastic player, I assure you. Let's talk about some numbers for a moment. Do you recall how packed the venues were during Caitlin Clark's games? Apparently, it is no longer the case. These days, very few people attend playoff games in the stands. Can you picture arriving at a location that ought to be buzzing with playoff excitement only to discover that it feels more like a ghost town? That's the WNBA's current situation as it stands. But things become even more alarming. It's not only that the WNBA is losing viewers, it is also dealing with serious financial difficulties. Furthermore, the sums at stake are not negligible. The WNBA makes almost $7 billion from its television contracts alone, and the NBA gives it $200 million a year in support. It's equivalent to comparing a tiny pond to a massive ocean. Such a disparity. You may be thinking, surely they have a plan to fix this at this point. This is when things really start to get interesting, so hold on. Many are perplexed by the WNBA's marketing initiatives or lack thereof. Unbelievably, they haven't created any advertisements using Caitlin Clark. It's as though they had a treasure that they have decided to conceal. Furthermore, it goes beyond Clark. The league's entire player promotion policy is being closely examined. Without Caitlin Clark, one commentator said rather plainly, the WNBA is just a polished turd. Her. That goes beyond merely being critical. It serves as a serious wake-up call. Despite capitalizing on Clark's notoriety, the league appears to have forgotten the importance of contingency planning. What does all of this signify for women's basketball going forward, then? We're not merely discussing a dismal season. This may mark a sea change for the league as a whole. The WNBA is alarmingly losing fans without Clark in the postseason, and that poses a severe threat in the modern world when attention is a valuable resource. Here's the twist, though. This wasn't how things had to work out. With Clark, the WNBA had a fantastic chance. They had the opportunity to use her celebrity to inspire other athletes and develop captivating narratives that would captivate spectators off the court. Rather, they chose to place all of their eggs in one basket, and now they have to pay the price. You may be wondering what will happen to the WNBA now. Prepare yourself, because you might be surprised by the answers. We're not merely searching for an easy fix. We want a total overhaul that has the potential to alter the league's dynamics. Marketing comes first. Riding the wave of Caitlin Clark's celebrity has helped the WNBA, but it's time to highlight other athletes as well. Imagine a league in which each player has a devoted fan base and a gripping backstory. Our goal is to create rivalries that spark conversation even when the top players aren't playing. Every game needs to have the aura of an unmissable event. Let's now discuss the athletes. The WNBA cannot wait for the next big talent to appear on the scene. They must aggressively seek for fresh talent, nurture it, and assist the upcoming generation of superstars. Imagine a league where every squad has a player who makes you go, wow, that was amazing. This is the important bit, though. If the WNBA is unable to maintain viewer interest, then none of this will succeed. They must develop narratives that span more than a single game or season. This entails creating compelling rivalries, solidifying team identities, and providing supporters with something to root for even when their favorite player isn't performing at their peak. Let's not forget about the financial aspect of things either. The WNBA needs to look for additional revenue streams. They are not limited to TV deals and ticket sales. How about making sales of goods? How about collaborating with other companies? The WNBA should seize the opportunity to fully investigate the plethora of opportunities that lie ahead. Let's review everything. The WNBA made a significant investment on Caitlin Clark, as we've noted, and they're now paying a price for it. A league battling to stay afloat, empty stadia, and dwindling viewership. But it hasn't ended yet. The WNBA must take some risky decisions. They ought to cultivate more stars, create thrilling rivalries, and make sure each game is unique. They can't just hold out for the next Clark to show up. It's time to experiment with new marketing strategies, improve the fan experience in person, and look into new revenue opportunities. The crucial query is this, though. Is the WNBA able to survive without depending on its one big star? Or does women's professional basketball have a difficult path ahead of it? What do you think? Leave a comment with your thoughts. We would be interested in knowing your plans for reviving the WNBA in the initial 2 minutes. DeJana Carrington jabbed Caitlin Clark in the eye during the Connecticut Sun vs. Indiana Fever first-round playoff game. Caitlin hit the floor. She had her face in her hands. None of the referees called a foul. There was no flagrant foul called. The play went on. Caitlin Clark's time in the WNBA has been somewhat interesting, but she may now be suspended. DeJana is approaching the ball. After she misses, her hand sags down and lands squarely in Caitlin's eye. Is it really true? Everything due to something as basic as throwing the ball. This league is being taken up by Caitlin Clark. Every time she does something amazing during a game, it makes the decision to bench her from the Olympic team seem even more foolish. It does seem a little absurd, doesn't it? It seems like the league is more concerned with calling technical fouls on her than acknowledging her brilliance, even though she is shattering records and showcasing her incredible skills on the court. WNBA players, coaches, and referees are what I mean. They're all just jealous people of Caitlin Clark. All of them are hateful, jealous people. They are merely agitating themselves over Caitlin Clark in order to belittle her. She's getting bumped by Skylar Diggins. Sulking on the bench are the girls. Now, referees are getting involved. They're all just jealous people. For whatever reason, the officials appear eager to raise their whistles. DeJana, what a flavor. Whether you think Carrington intentionally poked Caitlin Clark in the eye or not, the fact remains that she did so. What became of the media and journalists, nevertheless embracing their narratives and naturally their viewpoints? Can we also quit trying to cancel people just because we don't agree with their viewpoints? It's aggravating to watch such a vital participant in the sport handled as though she's always in danger of fouling out, whether she's celebrating a big play, expressing annoyance, or just going about her business. This whole debate about Indiana Fever supporters is based solely on misplaced animosity for Caitlin Clark. It's imperative that the WNBA reconsiders how they're treating things.